Hey guys, Scott Layton here, Expat Life, Renaissance Spirit Channel. This is going to be part 1 of a video that I'm not going to do part 2 of until next year. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I moved here to Tirana, Albania 10 days ago now, and I just wanted to explore the idea of what it means to be an expat, and also whether or not it might be something that you should think about. But before we get into that, let me just say something that I think too many people aren't hearing nowadays. There is no reason to settle for an unhappy life. Whatever your situation, you should be able to try to be happy. That's not to say that you will achieve it, but there is a certain comfort and freedom in being able to pursue happiness. It's one of the reasons why it's in the Declaration of Independence for Americans. I know that a lot of people, especially nowadays, are suffering for a myriad of reasons, whether that's the loss of a loved one, or illness, or financial constraints. The list is endless. And most of us are hurting to some degree or another. I think it's important for us to keep that in mind, that not only life is suffering, but it's more than suffering. It's the ability to find your place within the world. If you're a young person today, you may be wondering, are you ever going to pay off your student loans? Are you ever going to be able to find that job? Are you ever going to be able to afford a home? For them and for people my age, I'm 55, they're asking themselves, am I going to get laid off? These billion-dollar companies making billions and trillions of dollars in profit are laying people off nowadays because they can, because of things like AI, because of greed. For most people, no matter what your situation or lot in life is, we all are going through our own trials and tribulations, unless you're a Bezos or a Trump or a Musk or a Zuckerberg. So I'm going to tackle the question about whether or not you should be an expat by just giving you some things that I've thought about in my own journey that I thought might help you. And whether or not you're necessarily thinking about becoming an expat, moving to a different country, a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are generally applicable to everyone. To live a better life, to, if not necessarily become happy, at least to start or rediscover the journey to it. I will follow this video up a year from now to see if I agree and disagree and do a reaction video on this one and add whatever new insights I might have. I will also, hopefully by then, speak to some more fellow expats and get their journey and get their advice along the way. If you are a fellow expat and want to do a collaboration, please reach out to me in the comments or email. So again, before we necessarily get into should I think about becoming an expat, let's consider whatever your current life has led you to. There are a lot of people currently in their situation that honestly just do not have the wherewithal, the bandwidth, the finances to be able to move abroad. If you are caring for someone, whether it is a spouse or a parent or a child, you probably don't have that freedom to be able to just up and leave. Immigration, especially nowadays, if you've watched the news, is becoming more stringent in most places. And that is something that anyone needs to consider. And specifically to Americans and to those thinking about moving to America. If you are an American, you also have to be cognizant that there's currently a bill in the House of Representatives that may pass that would limit the ability for people to become dual citizens. If it does, I think personally it's, and from what I've read, highly unconstitutional, but it doesn't seem to stop things in America nowadays. But just keep that in mind. And if you are thinking about coming to America and immigrating. I don't want to rain on your dreams, but just be cognizant that even this past week, people have been removed from the citizenship pledge and the last step of citizenship. It's getting very, very difficult for people to come to America nowadays. And unless that's where your heart leads you, I would seriously consider thinking about the whys and your reasons for wanting to come. And for deeper dive, guys, this isn't going to be a long video, but if you do want more details on my personal experience outside of what I discuss on this video, watch my 360 pyramid tour of Tirana as I walk through the beautiful streets of the center city of Tirana at night and twilight. But that being said, there's a couple of things that I think are important to think about if you do want to become an expat, which I think are prerequisites. Now, we talked a little bit about money. I just mentioned it briefly earlier, but becoming an expat can be expensive depending where you move. Getting rid of all of your stuff, unless you sell it, can be a loss. In my particular example and instance, I retired at 55. And if you are working, you know that some of your most valuable salaries come, in your late 40s, your 50s, and your 60s, the end of your career. You make more at the end of your career than you do at the beginning, which is why it took me until my mid-40s to be able to pay off my student loans and my debt, which is why I'm very conscious of what it must be like for the young today. There aren't any easy answers, guys. But I think the most important thing to consider about whether or not you want to be an expat is, if you're happy in your current life, why would you want to leave it? If you're not happy in your current life, then I think you have a duty to yourself to be able to find solutions to make yourself happy. And I'm not talking about coping mechanisms like alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever, greed. I'm talking about finding what is important and meaningful to you and trying to reach it in a reasonable, compassionate way. If you have the ability to move financially, that's important. There are many places that you can get jobs in other countries if you have the right skill sets. And when I say right, I mean those that are highly sought after. However, looking for a job in another country, unless you have a job in another country, can be very difficult. So for me, when I retired at 55, I gave up some of the best years of my income and I kind of went on a limb. So again, we'll see a year from now if it works out for me or not. But in brief, I wasn't happy with my life. I felt like I was stagnating. I thought things were just getting worse in America. And I think most Americans can probably agree with that assessment. And at 55, I'm like, if I don't do this now, when am I going to? It was a weird experience telling my boss, finally pulling the plug. And at my retirement party, one of my fellow coworkers who was in his 70s told me, yeah, I'm going to retire in the next couple of years too. I'm tired. I've had enough. And it just made me think of how lucky, sorry for the background noise. This is a very loud city. But it just made me think, if I were to have stayed, that could be an extra 15, 20 years of unhappiness. I didn't want to do that to myself. I felt that I owed myself more. So it's better to try sometimes with regret than not try and have a guarantee of regret. So finances are important. I picked Albania. One of the reasons I picked Albania was because it's a lot cheaper than the States. If you've watched any of my other videos, especially my market haul videos, that'll attest to it. But finances wasn't all of it. I mean, just quality of life. Things are getting bad in the States. And for many of us, especially in the marginalized communities, they've been bad for a while and they're just getting progressively worse. So I took the chance. I took the risk, the gamble. But I'd rather make a reasonable gamble than make a assured mistake. So if you are considering going abroad or changing your lifestyle or changing your life in however capacity that is, seek professional help. Seek a certified financial advisor and go over the numbers. Whatever we do in life, we should be reasoned and compassionate with ourselves and others. And for a decision as big as moving abroad, for example, you need to be clear-eyed. So that's my first tip. The second one is to be cognizant of your expectations. And if you can, try to ignore them. Now, what I mean by that is, I've done videos on imagination and stuff, and we all think things are going to be a certain way. And then reality sets in, and things are never what we expect them to be. If you were to move abroad, you're going to find things to be more different than you anticipated, unless you're extremely familiar with where you're moving, the culture, the people, the finances, the economy, the politics, society. I'm not saying to lower your expectations by any stretch. What I'm saying is be adaptable with your expectations. Don't just have one view of how things are going to be. Have multiple levels and layers and views of how things might be. That gives you a more broad perspective and helps you assimilate more. And also just to help you be more happy when you actually do move, if you do. Another important question is asking yourself what is making you unhappy and why you'd consider moving in the first place. If you can't really explain that to yourself and to others, you need to get there first. I'm not telling anyone that they should or shouldn't do something in life. I don't know your journey. I don't know your particular situation. I'm just trying to be honest from my standpoint. And I do realize that most people are currently hurting and thinking about different options. One of the most important things I can tell a person thinking about moving abroad, or a person who actually has already, is to hope. One of the most important things I can say is keep your preconceived notions in check. In fact, if I were you, I would hope that you check in your preconceived notions like luggage at the airport and hope the airline loses your preconceived notions instead of your luggage. My point is that you have to be willing to adapt, whether that is a new job, a new city, a new relationship, or a new country. Things rarely turn out as we see it in our minds. Visualizing the future is so important, but don't be caught up if things aren't as you expect them. Another related topic to that is biases. What are your thoughts and views of the world? And if someone questions them, which is very common in most places in the world, they all don't think the same as we do or as you do. Knowing what you think, knowing why you think it, knowing how you come up with the conclusions you do helps you, because when you move abroad, you're becoming the same version of yourself in a new environment, unless you are willing to change who you are. What's that old saying? You either ignore your situation if it's a bad one, or you complain about it, or you change it. Sometimes the only solution is to change ourselves. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We all hurt ourselves and others, sometimes on purpose, hopefully not. But we all have to give each other grace, but we also have to keep that for ourselves as well. And know that your journey is going to be different wherever you go, whatever you do, whatever your age, whether that's traveling abroad or moving abroad or just starting something new in life. If you're not willing to change, you probably shouldn't move abroad. Now, this one is going to be a little bit hard for some people to accept, but becoming an expat is not the same as becoming a movie. It is a journey, absolutely. And in my case, hopefully a quest to be a better person, to be the person that I couldn't be in America. And what I mean by that is I started this channel, The Renaissance Spirit, because I believe we need to go back to the fundamentals, back to the virtues and understand the human condition more. We need to connect ourselves more to the things that matter to us as humans. Get away from all of the consumerism and all the cognitive dissonance and willful ignorance that happens in a lot of places today. And just the busyness of life. I didn't have the energy, the time, or the inclination between working a full-time job and doing my YouTube to live the life I wanted to. And I think a lot of you can probably understand what I'm saying in your own lives. So I knew that my life would be different because I was choosing to be different, and I was opening myself up to that possibility. So whether it's a movie or not, that depends. But it's not a vacation. Sure, you are going to see new sights, new smells, new people, experience things that you might never have done in your old life. Absolutely, without question. Every day, in strange, surprising, sometimes disappointing, sometimes hilarious ways, which I've explained in some of my other videos. For example, I vape cigarettes because smoking is unhealthy and it's the lesser of two evils, hopefully. So I went and bought a new vape juice because I was running out of what I brought with me, only to find out it's actually from California. And because I am probably addicted to nicotine, I went and had them put nicotine in because apparently it didn't come with it naturally, and they shook it up. So let me taste it and tell you what it tastes like in comparison to what I'm used to. It's much stronger. Also, to save money, because I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, I ended up buying today something called Orzo Pupo. I had no idea what it was, but in C2 it was next to the other coffee, so I assumed it was coffee. It isn't. It's some kind of like instant barley drink. Let's see what that's like. It was like half the price of regular coffee. Instant coffee, at least. It's not bad. It doesn't really have much of a taste at all. I'm going to just supplement that and put a little bit of coffee in it. But you're not going to find the products you're used to in most cases. I have been to several markets already, if you've watched any of my other videos. I haven't seen a Reese's cup. I love Reese's. I love peanut butter. They do have peanut butter here, but it's kind of weird colored, and I'm trying not to eat American food unless I really need it. Mentally, at least. Things will open up for you. You will have new opportunities. You will explore yourself in ways that you might not have ever thought about. You will question things you never thought about questioning. Your health might change. Your complexion might change. Just everything can change. You have to be cognizant of that, because if you aren't, it will be a harder road for you. The other thing is, like I said, it's not a vacation. I mean, you will develop a new life here. You will have new routines that you have to find and explore and choose. The amount of freedom is infinite. But if you are coming to a foreign country to work, your experience will be completely different than coming to a foreign country to retire. So bear that in mind. And just personally, I found that everything takes me longer to do here. Showering takes me longer because the shower is small, and there's a drain, but it's at the same level as the rest of the bathroom, and cleaning up, water off the floor kind of thing. Just everything takes longer, it seems like. I don't know if your experience will be the same, but I've definitely felt that things take longer to do here. I also dress differently than I did in the States because that's what they do. People in Europe wear dress shirts and dress clothing a lot more than they do in the States. So I had to up my game, as I've talked about in my pyramid video. If you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to accept that life isn't a vacation, your expectations will not be met. You also have to remember that if you have loved ones back wherever your home was, you might be in a different time zone. You might be in a completely different situation, like I said. Things will change. Your relationships with people that you've known and loved for years will change. Thankfully, with technology and WhatsApp and everything else, it's easier to stay in contact with people than ever before. With technology, it's easy to get from point A to point B with things like Google Maps. But those relationships will change, or can change. And you have to let yourself be cognizant that, yes, it's important to keep those ties and keep those relationships strong. And in my case, I've had to make more of an effort mentally and in action to do that, because I also want to be able to give and invest in new relationships here, both with locals and also with expats, to share similar journeys and to find out what I can learn from their experience. If you are thinking about moving abroad, speak to other expats, join message boards, watch vlogs or blogs, get an idea or taste of what to expect. But again, keep those expectations in check.
That's all for now, guys. I get into more topics throughout my new life here through my expat life, so check out that playlist here on the Renaissance Spirit channel, and thank you very much for watching. Reach out if you have any questions or would like me to cover a specific topic in a future video.